Hi, I'm Dr. Jeffrey LeBenger. At Summit Medical Group, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues that affect their lives. That's why we're very proud to support important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by Summit Medical Group, Wells Fargo, the Russell Berrie Foundation, Georgian Court University, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. Promotional support provided by NJ Biz, all business, all New Jersey, and by Observer New Jersey Politics.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We are coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio. It is my honor and my pleasure to welcome for the first time Christine Norbut Beyer, who is Commissioner of New Jersey Department of Children and Families. Good to see you, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you. Nice meeting you.
Same here. Describe your organization.
So the Department of Children and Families is the cabinet-level department. We are the state agency focused on all things children. And so while we do have protective services, formerly DIFUS, now Child Protection and Permanency, we also run a number of other programs for children, for families, youth, up to age 21, substance abuse, mental health treatment. We do a lot of prevention services. So, we are a lot more than protective services.
Commissioner, I'm curious about this. The most pressing, difficult, perplexing problems facing our most vulnerable children, what are they?
I think one of the challenges that we have in the state right now is that poverty is a big issue for many of the families that we serve within the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, and even in some of our other divisions. And so, there are a lot of issues that happen as a result of that. Some of that is the stress of trying to make ends meet with your family, and so I would say that for children, it's just wanting get the support that they need, or having the support that they need from their families, feeling safe, having their basic needs
Is it
met.
Emotional support, physical, nutrition issues? We're talking all of it.
It's all of the above. Yeah, all of the above.
And is it disproportionately, the children you serve, the families you serve, are they disproportionately socioeconomically in a different place on the ladder? Poor?
It depends on the service. I think that there's a misnomer that child welfare or child protective services typically serve low-income families, or that we serve disproportionately in inner cities, and really that's not the case. I mean, unfortunately, child abuse and neglect knows no socioeconomic bounds. And so for protection and permanency, that crosses, barriers. But I would say that in some of our other programs, some of our prevention programs, our Division of Community Partnerships, that's where we see families who are struggling financially, who are on public assistance. It's important for us to be able to ensure that young children get to school, early intervention services, and so we partner with a lot of other departments around the state to ensure that young children and families get what they need, so that they're giving kids a good start, so they don't end up getting into our child protection system.
You're listening to Christine Norbut Beyer. She's the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Children and Families. This is Steve Adubato, and I'm curious about something. You talk about partnerships and collaboration. I mentioned to you before we got on the air that We've had Cecilia Zalkine. Cecilia was in today, actually taping, right, Jackie? For Advocates for Children of New Jersey.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation about infants and toddlers, 0 to 3, if you will, an initiative we're doing called Right from the Start, NJ. In terms of your department, what is the responsibility and role you have for protecting infants and toddlers? Is there a specific role?
I would say...
Excuse me for interrupting, because I know we had the Commissioner of Health in today. It's broken up. Some of those responsibilities are there. Some of it may be in your area. Some of it may be in other areas of state government. It's fragmented, is it not?
I don't know that I would say it's fragmented. I think
it's complex.
That it is complex, and I think that, you know, each of the state departments have a role to play, and when we do it right, we work together in order to ensure that kids 0 to 3 get what they need.
What do they need?
I think that from our perspective in the Department of Children and Families, we're really looking at how do we support parents in that they can give their kids 0 to 3 what they need. Some of that is ensuring that they have protective factors, that they send their kids to early intervention if necessary, that they get to the appropriate medical care, that kids are being seen regularly by pediatricians.
It's preventive.
It's absolutely prevention.
And by the way, you said this, excuse me for interrupting, Commissioner. You said we're beyond child protection. Prevention is the focus.
Yeah. I think that, you know, one of the things that I struggle with and is something that I'm going to have to really work very hard on as the commissioner is the branding of our department. People think DC...
Branding?
The branding, yeah, branding of the Department of Children and Families, because most people in the state believe that DCF is synonymous with Protective Services, or DCP&P, formerly DIFUS.
A lot of acronyms.
Yeah, it's too many acronyms. But it's child protection. And so when they hear DCF, they think automatically child protection, foster care,
There must
adoption.
be an abuse situation, and they're coming in, the state's coming in to quote-unquote protect that child.
Yeah, and so...
And that's part of what you do.
That is, and it's an important part of what we do, but it's not the only thing we do. And so that's when families are deeper into the system or after the fact. And so, you know, a lot of our focus is about how do we prevent child abuse and neglect? How do we ensure that families have what they need, that parents have the education, the supports, the programs and services that they need in order to be able to keep their kids safe. And so our focus really is going to be about prevention. And you know, one of the ways that states' child welfare is funded in states traditionally has been when kids are in foster care.
That's right.
And then the federal government gives money to the states to take care of those children in care. And so there really has never been a mechanism to draw down dollars specifically for prevention. And that changed in February of this past year, of this year,
What
2018. There was a new federal law passed called Family First Prevention Act. And so that will give states the opportunity to draw down dollars for prevention services so that we can actually provide services to kids in home, to their families in home before things get to the point of you know, removal being necessary or before an imminent risk.
Commissioner, before I let you out, Commissioner Christine Norbut Beyer, Commissioner of New Jersey Department of Children and Families. I'm curious about this on a personal level. How did you get into this whole thing? Why do you care so much?
How did I get into this?
The Reader's Digest version. I'm going old school on you.
Yeah, do you know what? Well, I will tell you that I went to Stockton. I graduated from Stockton.
And you went to Rutgers as well.
And I went to Rutgers with an MSW, bachelor's from Stockton.
We were not there the same years, but go ahead.
Yeah, right. Maybe close.
Go ahead.
And I was a marketing major. I went to school as a marketing major, and I got a D in marketing my freshman year.
What?
And I decided I needed to rethink my plan.
That's what...
And so as a result of that, I started taking... always interested in social issues, social justice, and so I took some social work classes, and I fell in love, and the rest is history.
Sorry for doing that, because they're like, you got to go to a break. I said, I want to know more. I'm sorry. Commissioner, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate
Listen,
it.
we're right back with State of Affairs right after this.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're pleased to welcome Michele Siekerka, President and CEO, New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Good to see you, Michele.
Great to be here.
As usual, BIA has done an important study, in this case looking at the current regional business climate in New Jersey and how we rank, what, in the region, the country, what?
Well, unfortunately, when it comes to regional competitiveness, we are dead last. Dead last, meaning when we track trends on spending, on taxes, on cost of living, we rank last in the region. We did a study where we took 6 factors and we compared ourselves to 7 states in the region, Northeast, and we came in dead last.
Based on, is it taxes primarily?
Yes.
Which ones?
Well, if you think about corporate business tax, if you think about individual tax, if you think about
Individual meaning income tax?
Yeah. If you think
and then property.
Oh, property tax, number 1. Absolutely number 1. So some of these taxes were not dead last, but when you rank the 6 factors all together and you add them up and score them, we are last. And we're not just last, we come in 33. And the next one behind us is at like 26 when you add up the factors.
Add in another piece of this. There are lots of folks across this country who believe fervently, Michele Siekerka, that we need to increase, you know where I'm going, the minimum wage, $15 an hour. I see campaigns everywhere, people saying it's not a livable wage. I think that you are saying that the survey found that that $15 minimum wage in New Jersey would make us more or less competitive, what?
Oh, no, less competitive. So our number 1 out-migration state is Pennsylvania. They're not even having a discussion around raising minimum wage right now. In New York, you know, the discussion is different.
Cuomo is on behalf of it.
We also know what the challenge in New York is right now. It's very early on, and we already hear from our industry members, our business members who have companies in New York as well, where the challenges are. Retail, supermarkets, they're very challenged over there. You know, people think that everybody always talks about corporate greed and corporate welfare and thinks there's all this money flowing back to companies. Let's talk about Main Street companies. Their profit margin is about yo big. All right, think about the pizzeria, think about the bakery, think about the laundromat. Okay? When you go in, you take and expand their expenses, what do? It's a balance sheet. They either have to increase cost or they have to cut expense. It's very easy, right? I mean, the math's easy on this.
So I want to understand something else. The income tax, and again, we are doing this program, we don't know as we do this program whether there's going to be an increase in the quote-unquote millionaires tax in the state. Governor Murphy has talked about it with us many times and more importantly with many other media organizations, said it publicly. The income tax rate in the state of New Jersey is?
Well, the highest is 8.97.
Yep, as we speak.
Yes.
In Pennsylvania, what is it?
Oh, now you're testing me on my numbers.
It's 3%.
Correct. Thank you. It's 3%.
It's 3%.
Significantly
in
lower.
In New York, I believe, check this out, team, as we're talking, I believe it's 5-ish. And in Florida, do you happen to know? It's 0. And why do I raise it? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You could think taxes need to be raised or not. That's your business. How easy is it for certain people who don't like or don't want to stay in a state with a certain income tax rate to, quote, just leave?
Well, it's very easy. So here's our number 1 challenge is that number 1 out-migration state, Pennsylvania, right across the river. Bucks County, Lehigh Valley. I mean, just go up the Delaware and see the migration that has taken place over time. I live and work in Mercer County for 2 decades. I have watched Bucks County grow as I've watched Mercer County not grow. Okay? Right. So you can talk about out-migration to that number 1 state right across the river, walking with your wallet. But the other thing is you talk about Florida. Now, we can't compete with Florida. Let's be fair.
No, you can't. That's 0. And we need an income tax in order to pay for our public schools and a whole range of other things.
And the services that we have rich services in the state of New Jersey. But what we do have, and remember, you know, the sun shines all the time in Florida, warm weather. When people aren't, because people say, oh, they go to Florida for the weather. They're not going to Pennsylvania for the weather. So keep that in mind, right? That's a definite walk with your wallet, okay? But what they are doing is we have the new, what I call the new snowbird phenomenon. 6 months and a day outside the state of New Jersey, you're not considered a resident of New Jersey for income tax purposes.
So
therefore, more people, the traditional snowbird used to be go down after Christmas, come back around Easter.
Now?
6 months and a day. 6 months and a day outside the state of New Jersey, you're not taxed on your income in the state of New Jersey.
So then you have 0 income tax because you're not a Florida resident.
If you are a Florida resident, absolutely correct. Yes, so we see that. I could tell you, go to Trenton Mercer Airport on a Thursday night. You will see all the folks who can afford to do it go down to Florida, counting their days for the 4-day weekend.
What do you say, Michele, devil's advocate, what do you say to those, again, we don't know what's going to happen with the millionaire's tax. What do you say to those, like Governor Murphy and others, who say, you know what, we've got a pension crisis in New Jersey, a public employee pension crisis, it's underfunded. The public schools are not getting the dollars they need, a whole range of other services. If we do not raise taxes on the wealthiest in the state, the governor's often called it a fair tax, we will never be able to do the things we need to do to keep services where they need to be in the state. You say?
I say we need structural reform.
What does that mean?
That means that we need to restructure how we fund education through property tax, number one. We need to address how the health care benefits for state workers. Now, I'm not picking on state workers, okay, but there has been, at least for 5 years, a recommendation out there to the tune of $1.2 billion to take the health care plan from a platinum to a gold. $1.2 billion, Steve, right there at the making. Yes.
Yeah, but Michele, respect.
That goes right back into the budget. You could put that into the pension.
But didn't public employees give up a whole range of their benefits in the 2011 pension reform plan between Governor Christie and the Democratic legislature? Didn't they give up a lot?
Oh, there's so much more opportunity for reform. There was absolutely reform at that point in time. Step one of reform. There's so much more, and you're not having a disparate impact, a disparate treatment of the state worker. Take a look in private sector.
They don't say that.
Oh my gosh, look at private sector benefits, okay? There's no such thing as pension plans anymore in the private sector. Everybody's on a 401k, number one. Number two, look at healthcare. Number one issue to New Jersey business every year when we survey them, rising cost of healthcare, rising cost with less benefit. More and more, the businesses are having to put that on their employees to pick up more of the premium.
But public employees, without belaboring this, say, we get paid less than they do in the private sector, which is why these benefits should come to us.
Yeah, I would respectfully disagree. You know, this isn't the 1950s, 60s, 70s, okay? We have spent years making sure that state workers get competitive wages, negotiations. I was on a school board for over 10 years. I negotiated 6 labor contracts. I know how the process goes. People are treated fairly here. They're treated fairly.
Real quick before I let you go. This whole question of tax reform, comprehensive tax reform, do you believe that we should lower the income tax rate?
We should do everything we can to bring more relief back to residents.
Michele Siekerka, who is the president and CEO of New Jersey Business Industry Association. Thank you, Michele, as always. Check out next time. Be right back right after this. I swear I can do that.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Recently, I was on location at the Russ Berrie Awards for Making a Difference. There, we met a 2018 honoree with a very special story. Here now is that conversation.
My name is Melissa Gertz. I am the founder and executive director of the Community Justice Center. We are a legal services nonprofit in New Jersey. We just represented our 650th client. To quote Cornel West, "Justice is what love looks like in public." What has always called to me most, even as a child growing up in New Jersey, was not just a distaste for injustice, but an imperative to do whatever was in my power at that particular moment to rise above and against it. It drove me to law school and to choose Rutgers School of Law in Newark because of its legacy of inclusion and integrative approach to social justice and civil rights, that all oppressions and isms are one and the same. In the summer of 2004, in the midst of law school, I was interning at a civil rights organization in the Mississippi Delta when life decided to rudely interrupt. In short, I was T-boned by a truck and nearly died. But I didn't. Instead, after countless surgeries and rehabilitation, I was left with a face full of hardware that felt and looked more like the inside of a piece of electronics, extremely limited vision, and the most important and devastating of it all, traumatic brain injury, or TBI. Meanwhile, veterans have been returning from deployment with TBI. Everyone knows this, in large part because of the light cast by Bob Woodruff after his own injury while embedded. But what everyone doesn't know are the endless battles they face upon return, within themselves and to get the benefits and treatment they rightfully deserve. Without it, we all know the outcome, suicide. But we don't all quite understand why. But I did. And in New Jersey, there weren't any legal services outfits to help. The question is not why did I start the Community Justice Center? The question is how could I not? My rescue dog Kenna and I have become quite the dynamic duo. Returning veterans and others dealing with PTSD and TBI find the comfort of Kenna coupled with my personal experience compelling and are much more open about their own struggles. And the real kicker? She was rescued just a few miles from my car accident, 1,300 miles away. A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? I feel like this says it all. Our clients don't have the luxury of time. Homelessness or worse, suicide is at their doorstep. Of course, medical and financial stability are critical, but my clients will tell you something else. Educate yourself. Thanks to the internet, you have many resources at your fingertips. Do you need a starting point? Start with the spoon theory. Surviving a near-death experience, I cherish what many others take for granted. Given my own limited energy reserve, I am quite choosy about how I spend my time and with whom I spend it. In moments of doubt and frustration, I often refer to this quote from my mentor, former New Jersey State Supreme Court Justice Virginia Long. You will have your chance to make a difference. The issue is whether you will take it. You can be an ordinary thread in the tunic, or you can be that royal touch of purple that gives distinction to the garment. Be that royal touch of purple to the world. I have been swimming upstream for so long that sometimes it feels like, while not small to those on the receiving end, that my contribution in the fight against this particular injustice is insignificant. I'm hopeful this recognition will open more doors, more hearts, and help save even more lives from suicide.
It is my honor to introduce a young lady who is being recognized by the Russ Berrie Awards for Making a Difference. She is Melissa Gertz, and she heads up an organization called Community Justice Center in Trenton, New Jersey. Melissa, describe that organization.
The Community Justice Center is a legal services outfit, the first of its kind in New Jersey, to serve disabled veterans and others that struggle with invisible illnesses, specifically traumatic brain injury and PTSD. I am a survivor of both, and so I understand the struggle very well.
Sure. By the way, I'm going to drop this, if you don't mind, because I also have, Melissa asked me to hold this in case she needed it, and let's put things in perspective. This is an iPad with some information, and you thought maybe you might need this for the interview because you said you heard about my reputation, and you didn't trust me because you're a lawyer and you're skeptical, in a good way. But more to the point, you understand this on a personal human level. You've created this organization to make a difference for others. How and why?
Well, like I said, in 2004, I was T-boned by a truck and nearly died. I didn't, thankfully. I survived, but with a face full of hardware, extremely limited vision, and a traumatic brain injury. Fast forward 5 years, the veterans were coming back in record numbers with TBI and PTSD and not getting the benefits that they deserved or the treatment. We all know the result of this, record number of suicides. I, on the other hand, understood why.
It's interesting. You experienced it. You've had your challenges. You have had a very successful career as an attorney. But my question is, what made you say, I want to help others while I'm struggling with my own situation? That's really what I'm curious about, and frankly, I think a lot of folks watching are.
Cornel West said it best.
Great Professor Cornel West, Dr. West.
Yes. Justice is what love looks like in public. I have always had kind of been called and have an imperative to, in any particular moment, do whatever was in my power to stand up and rise above and against injustice. And this, to me, was just another form of injustice.
So it's so interesting, the awards for making a difference, the Russ Berrie Awards. You are being recognized. You're called a hero. Honoring New Jersey's hero is, in fact, what the brand is and the tagline is. Do you consider yourself a hero?
No, I don't. I would like to put myself out of business, to be honest, because the veterans shouldn't need me. They should be getting what they deserve from the beginning. They shouldn't need us lawyers to come in and fight for them. They need to be believed.
What do you mean believed?
You know, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, other invisible illnesses, you can't see it. If you look fine, you must be fine. I look fine, but I'm definitely not fine. That's part of the problem, is that there's a lack of education among invisible things. And like I said, if you're missing a limb, you can see it. If you have a brain injury, you can't see it. But it's just as chronic, it's just as lifelong, and it's just as debilitating.
One more question, Melissa. First of all, congratulations on being honored. Because you look so healthy, you look so good, and the camera speaks for itself, could you let folks understand how challenging, obviously you did not need this iPad, I want to make that clear, that was a crutch for you, but how challenging is it for you so that those of us who don't see it and experience it personally can have a sense of how challenging, just frankly, just doing this interview is?
It is extremely challenging. For example, right now I'm in a ton of lighting that I shouldn't be in because it could induce seizures. I'm heavily
These television lights.
Fluorescent lighting. Most people with traumatic brain injury have severe light sensitivity. So while I'm legally blind, I have superhero night vision. I can see everything in the pitch black. But when you put fluorescent lighting or spotlights, I can't see anything.
I wanted to say thank you. You have taken the challenges that you face every day and decided to make a difference in the lives of others, particularly veterans dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome, with traumatic brain injuries, which you've experienced yourself. And I just wish there were more people like you in the world. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, and I hope this helps open more doors and more hearts and save some more lives.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by Summit Medical Group, Wells Fargo, the Russell Berrie Foundation, Georgian Court University, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor.
Think this is absurd? Insurance fraud costs every New Jersey family over $1,300 every year. Report fraud at njinsurancefraud.org.